When you make up your mind to be defined by a vision of the future, you're going to change your energy. And when you change your energy, you're going to change your life. We're creatures of habit. People get locked into a routine. When they're doing the routine, they're not present. It means that you got to change it up. People have to embody who they want to become. Walk as that person, breathe as that person, become the stars of their own movies. I challenge people to get beyond themselves. When you forget about everything that's known, you're moving into a very creative process. You're placing your attention and energy in that field of possibilities. That's where the magic happens. I'm very hopeful that we become a species of human beings connected to the earth, so creative, so overjoyful. We're wired to give. We're the happiest when we're taking care of one another, and that's what community is about.
They say that the human race is doomed, that we have lost touch with our true nature, that the media has corrupted us, and that the planet has no future. I disagree. I believe that humanity is full of hope, and that our salvation lies within each one of us. My name is Brian Rose, and my job is to listen, the oldest method of learning known to man. Each week I seek out individuals that are changing the world. People who are living and thinking in a different way. Their stories will challenge your beliefs, make you question your choices, and perhaps inspire you to change. I never planned on doing any of this, but now I can't stop. Join me on this mission and make humanity something we can all be proud of.
It's time for you to man up, to once and for all, tell your mind who the fuck is boss. I need a fucking answer. What's it gonna be? I don't know what it is about this fucking sport, but it attracts people that really need to do deep work on themselves.
I failed in this city. All these bad memories. I never really felt like I gave a fuck about me or my life. I almost killed myself, like...
Think about something that is going to drive you when it really hurts. Some kind of demon you want to fight.
This is not Pussy Man, this is Iron Man. Under pressure reveals true character. What are you going to do? You're going to be in Chattanooga May 20th or what?
Dr. Joe Dispenza is back on London Real, and he's here to tell you if you can change your energy, you can actually change your life. And I love this perspective that he always brings, is that you should be able to practice abundance when you don't have things. You should be able to be grateful when you're not necessarily happy with what you have. And by projecting this energy outward, you can affect your entire future. I always get inspired when Joe comes here. He says you can be most creative when you stop thinking about yourself and you get out of these daily routines and these daily habits that we have where we tell ourselves who we are. It's just this story that we repeat over and over again. If you can get out of that, I think you can take your life to the next level. And Joe really talked about what he does on his retreats, the action he gets people to take over 7 days, and some of the great stories and big breakthroughs. I know you're going to love this episode with Joe. He's never talked about this stuff before, so lock in for one of the best episodes of London Real. And inside the world headquarters, we're getting ready to launch our Speak to Inspire course. It's 6 weeks where I teach you how to communicate and persuade others. This is a skill that most people forget about, but my TED Talk that went viral with over 300,000 people watching it showed me the power of communication. And this is an online accountability course. It's what we do inside the academy. 100 people from around the world. We go through it as a boot camp, and it's closing now, so check that out. But don't worry, the Business Accelerator is coming after that, and all sorts of other cool things we're doing inside the Academy. Here's a little bit more about what we do.
London Real doesn't stop when the conversation ends. You see, that's when we get started. Because everything begins with a thought, and then comes the action. The London Real Academy is our global transformation platform. Here we bring together thousands of students from over 75 countries. Whether you want to build a profitable business from your passion, or learn to speak to inspire, or broadcast yourself with your very own podcast, or accelerate your life to become a high-performance person, we have the online accountability course and personal mentoring program that will make your dream a reality. Join us, and we'll take your life to the next level, together. Our next accelerator course is starting soon.
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Dr. Joe Dispenza, the New York Times bestselling author, international lecturer, researcher, and educator. You focus on the intersection of neuroscience, epigenetics, and quantum physics, driven by the conviction that each one of us has the potential for greatness. You specialize in teaching people to rewire their brains and recondition their bodies to make lasting changes. Dr. Joe, welcome back to London Real.
Happy to be with you, Brian.
It's great having you back. You know, you're no stranger to Europe. I mean, you've been back here in the last 5 or 6 months. Why do you keep coming back to this continent, and what brings you over here? Because you have a lot of interests around here, right?
I guess my whole view all along is, and principle that I live by, is I go where I'm invited. And when they stop inviting me, I think it's time to do something else. But strong interest in Europe, I think, started at the turn of the millennium when you started seeing people really breaking away from traditional religion and cultural ways. And I think people are really searching for something else. So I think Europe is a very practical place, and we love coming because we have a great audience, and people are interested in not just learning the information, but also applying the information. And when you start applying it, then you start experiencing the truth of the theory of their philosophy. So I think this is a time right now where people, not only want to know, they want to know how, and it's a practical approach, and we should be using this stuff to enhance our lives or to make changes. Yeah, we love coming to Europe.
Yeah, it's funny, and we were just talking, I was recently in Bordeaux, and I went on a tour of one of the wineries, and the tour guide said, we're not much into innovation here. We kind of do these things we've done for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and yet they're starting to kind of open their minds to what's going on, whereas you might argue in the West, or maybe in America, it's constantly been a place of innovation. Mm-hmm. So it reminds me of your stuff. Now this old school European culture is like, wait a second, there are some ideas here. And I know you go to Italy and Germany, and you must see, these societies that are kind of built on their past, now being open to some new ideas.
I think we're just at a great age right now. We're in an age of information. And in an age of information, I think ignorance is a choice. I mean, what makes this so beautiful at this current time is that you don't need an authority, really, to gain information. You don't need a rabbi or a priest. You don't need a teacher or a doctor. People can access information through technology. So there's this kind of globalization going on where you keep things that have worked traditionally, but I don't think things will ever be the same again. And because there's such a pace, a quickening that's going on, that more things are happening in a shorter amount of time, that people have to stay informed. And certainly when I walked out into an audience 10 years ago, very different than when I walk out today, because everybody has information, and I can start at any level, and people have enough understanding that they're ready for it. So I think globalization has been created because of information, and you're starting to see this merging of different cultures. You're starting to see, well, 10, 15 years ago, As an example, the Germans were so interested in the facts, the knowledge, the 7 functions of the hippocampus in order. And as a culture, the Italians were more into the experience. They didn't really need all that information. And now we're seeing just this kind of way that everybody, the Germans love the experience, the Italians love the knowledge, and now everybody's just kind of blending together. And I think that's a new healthy paradigm.
I was wondering if you could give us, as rough as you can, of a summary of what it might be like for me to come to one of your events. I know you've gone from the 2-day and the 4-day, and now you do these 7-day events because you found amazing success. And I know you've just had a big one in Cancun. You got one coming up in Toronto. You're back in London or in Brighton in a few months as well. And, I know you have different types of people that come to these events, but I'm just curious, kind of like the people that don't know you very well, what are the kind of things that they would learn from you or experience?
Wow, so I think people come to our events for a lot of different reasons. Some people come because they're faced with a health challenge. They've heard about somebody with a similar health challenge, or have read about somebody with a similar health challenge that went about making significant changes in how they think, how they act, and how they feel. And over a period of time, the disease went away, and without any exogenous substance. Other people come because they want to create a new life, a new job, a new career, a new opportunity. Some people come because they're chasing the mystical and they want to have those profound mystical experiences. And I think everybody comes for their own reasons. But what we're learning now is that in these 7-day events, and I'll talk about why we do those 7-day events in a minute, but there comes a point where people start experiencing a greater level of wholeness. And when you start seeing that kind of coherence that goes on in the brain and coherence that goes on in the heart, and we measure this, when you feel so whole and so complete that you're happy with yourself, and you probably will want less. And you're less reliant on anything outside of you to bring you joy. And I think that kind of is who we are innately. So people come for all kinds of reasons, and they think it's because they want wealth, or they want health, or they want a new relationship. But it's who they become in the process, because that's what you take with you. And so we were doing these 4.5-day advanced events, and what I noticed is right around the last day or so, people were having significant transformations. And I started realizing, God, if we had just 3 more days with them, what could we accomplish? So we started doing these 7-day events, and the events are an opportunity for people to retreat from their lives, to remove the constant stimulation in their external environment that reminds them of who they think they are as a personality. To separate themselves from the people they know and the places they go and the things that they do at the exact same time every day in that routine program. Long enough for me to remind them of what they already know, that they are the creator of their life. And so if you can combine a little neuroscience with a little quantum physics, with a little neuroendocrinology, with a little psychoneuroimmunology, a little bit of epigenetics, all of those new sciences really point the finger to what's possible. So people that come to the week-longs are people that are experienced in doing this work. We want them to be practicing at home because I'm going to stretch them outside of their comfort zone. And the first day is always the big day, because when you come, people have to get beyond themselves. And after looking at 8,500 brain scans, I now know without a doubt that you and I are at our absolute best when we get beyond ourselves. And there's a formula in helping people to do that. Now, when you forget about yourself, you're moving into a very creative process. You're not thinking about what you look like, you're not thinking about what you eat, you're not thinking about your past or all your problems or your pain, you're not thinking about your name. In fact, you dissociate from everything that's known for you, and that's the creative process, stepping into the unknown. So the first day, I challenge people to get beyond themselves, and so they'll learn, I'll remind them of some of the basics, and then we're going into a meditative process for different parts of the day, and they're working on taking their attention off their body. off the people in their life. Now think about this. The stronger the emotion that you feel to some problem or some condition in your life or some person in your life, the more you pay attention to that person or problem. And if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, in fact, you're giving your power away to a lot of the problems in your life because that's where your attention is. If you're in a routine of waking up every morning and running through the same behaviors that you did the day before, if you wake up in the morning and you have to think about your problems to feel the emotions that are connected to those memories of those problems are old circuits in your brain, and every problem has an emotion associated with it. If thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body, and how you think and how you feel is your state of being, most people's entire state of being is in the past. So then once they're living in the familiar past, we can know by fact that they're going to be in a predictable future. So then how do you get a person then to lower the volume to those emotions so that they can begin to take their attention off the problems in their life, and it's their attention and anticipation of how they expect it to show up that keeps their observation from a quantum model, the reality being the same. So then...
So I'm thinking the same things. I've got the same people in my life, so by definition I'm going to experience those same problems or that...
Yeah, and the best way to say it is that it's not your personality that's creating your personal reality. It's your personal reality that's creating your personality. You're at effect of your environment, and your environment is actually controlling your thoughts and feelings. So if you said to me, well, I'm angry today because of this person, I'm upset because of this problem, then what you're really saying, just from an objective standpoint, that person or that problem is actually controlling how I think and feel. Which means if I'm reacting to the conditions in my environment, then for the most part I'm a victim to my environment. But turning the battleship around, turning that model around, because how you think and how you feel should begin to produce an effect in your life if you were able to change it. So then people have to lay down the very thing that they've been using their entire life in the same way to get what they want for something greater to happen. So the first day is about overcoming ourselves. It's taking your attention off your environment, forgetting about your body and the emotions and pain and disease and whatever else, and get beyond that program of a predictable future and a familiar past, and get beyond the concept of linear time and fall into the present moment. And that formula then has a biological effect in the brain and body that we can actually anticipate, expect, predict when we see a person starting to overcome themselves. And after looking at enough brain scans, I saw then that people were able to get beyond themselves to move into that creative state. So
is that where creativity happens, when you separate yourself from yourself?
Well, think about it. Have you ever sat at your computer writing an article or reviewing something or studying, and you look up and it's 2.5 hours later and you have no idea where time went? You lost track of the space you were in and the predictable time of the next moment. And when you lose track of space and time, if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, and you have no attention in this three-dimensional reality, then all of your attention is in a realm of thought, and we would call that the quantum. So now, you can't enter the quantum field as a somebody. You have to enter as a nobody. So when you begin to get beyond yourself, what is your environment made of? People, objects, things, places, well, your body in space and time. So when you take your attention off all of those elements, you're disinvesting your attention and energy out of this three-dimensional reality, and you're placing your attention and energy in that field of possibilities. Now, what's the relevance of that? Well, think about it. Most people are their bodies trying to heal their bodies. And most people are their personality trying to change some aspect of their personality. They're trying to create some new future event, but they're wrapped up in the routine and program of how they live their life in the same ways.
Sounds ridiculous when you put it that way.
But the truth is that we're all stuck in these programs, and they've lost their free will to a program because they run the same routine every single day. So,
without knowing it.
Without knowing it. So then you need a crisis or a disease or a loss or a betrayal or a shock or something that you finally wake up, right? So our community of people when they understand that they have to get beyond themselves, because when they do, now they're ready to create. They're not thinking about what they look like. They're not thinking about what anybody else thinks about them. They're not thinking about how long it's going to take. They start getting beyond those elements that keep them restrained and attached to their past, present reality. So if you come to an event, the first day is about overcoming yourself. That first day, you start seeing people starting to break through. Once some people start to break through, it becomes very contagious.
Okay, and that's through meditation, physical
we
practices?
We use a lot of meditation. We do 4 types of meditation. We do a seated meditation, and our students can sit for extended periods of time because they forget that they have a body. Okay. And they're good at it. And we do standing and walking meditations. A picture 1,000 people on a beach, a beautiful beach, and everybody is starting off raising their energy and opening their heart. And then they begin to embody who they want to become. They start to walk as that person, they breathe as that person, they start to take it on, and they start embodying that energy. And they start changing the subtle programs of when you're unhappy or when you're beaten down by your environment, you have a certain posture, certain unconscious mannerisms. So we're retraining them so that when they get back into their life, they're going to walk as their future self. They're not going to walk as their old self, they're becoming it. And that becomes the new habit. And then we do a laying down meditation, and that's important because in those laying down meditations, we are after the mystical. So we want to catch them in that realm between half awake and half asleep, where that door, the portal of dreams opens up, where you have a lucid experience. And again, we now have demystified that process, and we can induce that state. So in a week-long event...
What's the 4th?
Oh, the 4th is a lying down meditation. So standing, sitting, walking, and laying down. Okay. And you know, it's pretty fun because you see 1,000 people on the beach or in a park, and you're a person staying at the hotel, or you're just somebody who rides your bike in the park, and all of a sudden you see people just connecting, and everybody stays and watches. It's so beautiful. Sun rises. We start at 6 in the morning, and it's just sentient beings, you know, really connecting. And so people make movies. We do these mind movies, and we teach them how to, instead of watching some ridiculous late-night fright commercial about your immune system getting weaker, or you need a flu shot, or you need to drink a certain beer, or drive a certain car, to look a certain way, or to be loved or liked, and that's all programming where you're relying on something outside of you to bring you some emotion or feeling. That we teach them how to become the stars of their own movies. And we induce a trance with their eyes open, and they understand the science behind trance. And when you're in trance, you're less likely to analyze. And what separates your conscious mind from your subconscious mind is your analytical mind. So as they move into trance, they slow their brain waves down, they stop analyzing, they increase their level of suggestibility. And suggestibility is your ability to accept, believe, and surrender to information without analyzing it. So go back to a late-night fright commercial where you're just sitting, staring at the TV. It's called programming for a reason. Your brain's in trance. You're in alpha or high-level theta. You're not analyzing. You're just sitting there, and all that information is going right into your subconscious, and it's recording it. So then when you start experiencing any of those symptoms, or you start feeling some lack or emptiness, your brain is naturally going to create the picture of what you associate as a reason or a way to get out of that emotion.
Is media one of the most dangerous things we put in our brain?
Oh my God. I mean, if you're watching television, don't watch anything that you don't want to experience, because you're programming yourself for a specific outcome. And it turns out that many of the commercials are actually programming you for the very thing they have the solution for, if you look at it from an objective standpoint. So I thought, why not get a group of people to go into trance and understand the science behind it, and then instead of looking at some frivolous commercial, why not be the star of their own future? And when they play a strong song, like a powerful song that motivates them, and they're watching scenes of them and their future, just like when you were, you know, watching, driving down the car and hearing a song on the radio, and it reminds you of a time in your life, an associative memory. You're associating that song with some memories. From a biological standpoint, remembering your future is actually no different than remembering your past, and you can program your subconscious into that future. And so that helps people then to get clear on the future that they want to embrace, and it puts them in that right energetic or emotional state. So we use a lot of the mind movie technology. We teach them how to specifically create something out of nothing. We teach them how to connect to that unified field and to create from the field instead of from matter. And turns out the brain and the heart gets highly organized when we do this. And we've been doing this new thing in our week-long events, which has been really profound, and we've been teaching Coherence Healing. And we have witnessed some of the most incredible miracles, Brian, that I thought I would never see in my lifetime. You know, everything from cancer, tumors disappearing right during the event, people that have hearing difficulties hearing again, people with Parkinson's disease freed, people with crutches walking without crutches, people stepping out of wheelchairs, blind people seeing. I mean, we've seen, and I have to tell you, I was more surprised than anybody in witnessing this. But
what is coherence healing?
So our whole model that we use in our work is about creating brain and heart coherence. When there's a great communication between the brain and the heart, people are more aware, they're more healthy, they're more connected, they're more present, they're more kind, they're more loving, they're more caring. And so we teach people how to create this kind of brain and heart coherence. Well, the coherence healing we couldn't teach at the beginning of the week, because if a person is about ready to heal another person, you can't be thinking about the pain in your back, how long it's going to take, or if you're doing it right. You got to leave that on the beginning of the week. You got to get beyond that early on. So we do the coherence healings at the end of the week, and we call it the cage. So we take a person that has a health condition, they lay down, and we put 8 people around them in a cage, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, at the head and at the feet. And we give them the science of understanding how it all works, because if you look at some of the research out of Yale University in the 40s, some really elegant researchers, they came across the understanding that most people think that it's matter that emits a field. But in actuality, it's the field that creates matter. In other words, they started studying and understanding that certain rodents with certain propensities for certain cancers had a very specific electromagnetic signature in their field. And every single rodent that had that signature in their field had the type of uterine cancer. But there were certain rodents that had the signature in the field that didn't develop the cancer yet, but they ultimately developed the cancer. So it wasn't matter that emits a field, it's the field that creates matter. So the question is, if you can change the field, can you change matter? And so we give them the science and the understanding behind that, and then they raise their energy. They have to be in the state where they open their heart, because this is the center in which we give, and that center has to be activated, and it has to be coherent, and they have to be trained on how to do that. They have to be able to connect to that field of information, and then they have to get beyond themselves. And when they start creating very coherent energetic signatures by placing their hands in the field of the person laying there, they begin to produce very organized, more holistic patterns that begin to disorganize or create an unraveling of matter, and then you see this reorganization of matter go on. And I'm saying within minutes. So I've seen bodies shake uncontrollably. I've seen people arch their back where there's nothing touching the ground but the back of their head and their heels. This is energy. This is a very profound energy. I've seen people feel more love than they've ever felt in their entire life, and that's information that's being overlaid into the field. And so the more they are connected to that field, the faster amount of time it happens. So we're getting good at it.
Okay.
We're
and
getting
you're
really
surprised. That's what's always, fascinating to me, because you've been doing this for so long. How can it surprise you?
Well, because from a theoretical standpoint, it makes sense to me. But if you give people the proper instruction and you set up the conditions in the environment, I mean, and you start to witness people get their hearing back, and it happened in 15 minutes. You got to scratch your head, and you can't go back to business as usual. You just, the things that I've witnessed and still witness, we're still seeing these incredible changes that are taking place even after the event. You got to change your whole model of the way you view the world. So,
what do the scientists say when they try to get their heads around this? When you tell them this, what do they say?
Well, my scientist friends right now, they're really funny with me.
Your son's an engineer too, right?
Right, because I really, I honestly don't care anymore. I mean, I really don't care. I really don't care what people think.
Why?
Well, because I know that on some level we're making a difference in people's lives. So I don't...
what's a doctor for? To heal a patient. Doesn't matter the method.
Well, I don't even claim to know everything, but I'm interested in closing the gap between knowledge and experience. And I don't think if we wait for science to tell us it's okay to do this, we make it another religion, right? But if we go out and do it, and we record it, then science has to change their laws to meet up with what's possible. And so I'm surprised more than a lot of people many times, because it just, it shakes the present paradigm of my own personal conditioning, that of what I'm witnessing is happening, and these people are not monks, they're not priests, they're not holy people, they're not academics, they're common people, and that's the importance of all this. And this kind of healing, by the way, has been going on for thousands of years. There was herbs, there was ritual, and there was laying on of hands and energetic healing that was just part of what people did in many cultures. So
maybe we've gone too far down the science will fix it all route.
Well, treating it matter to matter, chemistry to chemistry, does work. It just takes time. So, but if you're starting to see these effects happening in no time, it's happening outside of time, like instantaneously, then that's a quantum phenomenon. So that's energy changing matter. Otherwise, if it's happening in no time, that's happening faster than the speed of light. So that's the realm of the quantum. So then, how much of people's day do they put on matter, their attention on matter? I would say, for most people, 100% of the time.
Very close to it.
If you get a group of people that yet they're taking all of their attention off of everything material and physical, and you can explain this invisible field of energy and information that exists beyond this space and time. There's no people there, there's no things there, there's no objects, there's no places, there's no planets, there's no light from the stars, there's no stars. It's an invisible field of nothing. But just because you can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So then you can only experience that realm with your awareness. And when you become pure consciousness, you leave this three-dimensional reality behind. Now you can execute greater effects on the nature of reality, on the material world. So in other words then, in order for you to heal your body, you got to get beyond your body. In order for you to change something in your outer environment, you got to get beyond the memory and the emotions that keep you connected to the problem that exists in your outer world. And so then people start to figure this out, and you're having them every day paying attention to this field, keeping their awareness on it, staying present with it, becoming more aware of it, feeling it, moment after moment after moment, every single time they have an experience or they feel something. Experience lays down circuitry in their brain. So now they're laying down the hardware for them to experience that field even more the next time. And plasticity works where you have to stretch beyond the known. You have to stretch outside your comfort zone. So then as they start to interact with that field, with their awareness, not with their bodies, but with their awareness, the brain's tracking it neurologically. And so now they're putting the circuits in place for them to stay connected to the field. And then the side effect of that is they start producing greater effects on their life, because now they understand now what they're doing and why they're doing it. So we've seen all kinds of amazing things go on in these coherence healings, and I want to get better at it. I want our community to get really skilled at it, and they can work themselves up into this state. You can ask people that come to these events, the energy in the room is off the chart, and people, we're wired to give, you know. We're the happiest when we're taking care of one another, and that's what community is about. So we're starting to see this genuine energetic thing that's happening where people are just popping, they're just healing. And it's exciting to me because, as I said, I'm waking up in my dream. I mean, this is my dream and it's happening, and so many other people are waking up in that dream, and we're giving people hope. Because even the most angry, unhappy, selfish person that's suffering because of some health condition, when they finally surrender, I've seen it happen. I've seen those people have a very significant change in a condition or a disease that medical science had no solution for. So how do you explain that, first of all? And second of all, if it's happening in real time to one person, or it's happening repeatedly, there's got to be some scientific model, because anything that's repeatable is science. So we're bridging on this whole new world here, a whole new realm. And then the last thing we're doing is, which is really super fun in our week-long events, is we're doing challenge activities. Now, why challenge activities? Well, we teach brain and heart coherence, really easy to do it in a closed environment, when there's music and the place is safe and everybody's sitting together and there's no threats or danger, and they practiced it with their eyes closed and they know they can concentrate and do it. But now, why not put those people in challenging conditions with their eyes open, where they would feel some emotion, like fear as an example, or a voice or a program saying, I can't do this. And now this is the time, right in that moment, where their body is going through a host of automatic reactions, and you're teaching them in that moment how to create brain and heart coherence. And if they can settle themselves down,
you're preparing them for the outside world.
They can go back into their life, and they can say, hey, this is nothing. You have no idea what I just did. What kind of
challenges are you doing?
Oh my goodness, I can't tell you
Okay.
because I want to ruin it, but I will tell you this. The one that we're doing in Toronto is outstanding. I'm so excited about this one. I mean, we keep upping the scale, and we have people, you know, these are courses where, you know, they're physically challenged, and but it's not about your physical body, if you're in shape. It's about your will, it's about your heart, it's about your soul. People that, you know, with Alzheimer's and rheumatoid arthritis and spinal cord injuries, where they have every excuse not to do it. And I'm telling you, they accomplish that feat, and boy, oh boy, they're no longer in the subconscious belief that they're handicapped, and now their progress, their acceleration moves very quickly. So we do these challenges.
That handicap is the ultimate manifestation of what you're doing, because that is something they potentially manifested physically.
We're all handicapped.
Right.
We're all handicapped.
It's just those you can really see
Right,
the step change that happened, as opposed to if I figured something else out about my own construct about my life. That might take months to play out.
And plus, where would you wind up standing on a pole, as an example, 50 feet in the air?
That's one of the challenges. And
you have to stand up on a plate that's kind of wobbly, and then you have to turn around and jump. You know, I mean, you can't tell me you're too old to do this. You can't tell me you're too sick to do this. You can't tell me you're too out of shape, too overweight, too underweight. You can't tell me you're not healthy. You can't tell me any of that stuff any longer, because I've seen all shapes and sizes do it. And so this community is being built where, instead of people competing and manipulating and backstabbing, you're seeing this community of cooperation and collaboration, and built in love and encouragement. You know, it's emotional. I mean, it's just witnessing somebody doing something like that. It gives you permission to do the same. And then we get people standing up on the stage and telling their story about how they overcame stage 4 cancer. Not one person, not 2 people, 3 people. People overcome depression, people overcome whatever it is. And they're telling their story to the audience. and it's undeniable, and you're listening, and they don't look like a movie star, they're not buffed or in shape or young and perfect or whatever. They're just a common person. As you're listening to their story, and it's not all glorious, and it's not all, you know, movie theme. They took some hard bumps. They lost things. They got bankrupt. I mean, they've had their challenges, and they never missed a day of their meditation. You start looking at those people, and you start realizing that, wow, all the things that you thought that you were feeling sorry for yourself about, you can't. You just can't. So there's a 4-minute mile that's being broken in our community. We're piercing a veil, and that veil is so important because it's happening. Once we pierce it, it's in consciousness. It's in the field, which means it's more readily accessible. Great. But also, if you're witnessing it, miracles that you see that are so incredible. When you witness it, and you're talking to the person next to you about it, now it's in the consciousness of three-dimensional reality.
It means you can do the same thing.
A 4-minute mile, once it was broken,
right.
You know this, you're an athlete. I mean, everybody knew that they could do it.
Right.
So
it's just a limiting behavior.
Just a limiting belief. So
right.
We're seeing these people. I love it. I love what happens as a side effect of people, because once people understand it from a philosophical and theoretical standpoint, and then they can explain that to the person next to them. If they can't explain it, it's not wired in their brain. They got to be able to share and build a model and review it and fire and wire and repeat it and argue and analyze and think about it and get this kind of model in place that's represented neurologically. They're installing the hardware in their brain in preparation for the experience. So the more they understand it, the more they understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, the more it makes sense to them. The how gets easier because they can assign meaning to what they're doing. So then when you set them up in the conditions and nothing's left to conjecture or superstition or dogma, they understand what they're doing, and they get their behaviors to match their intentions, there's going to be a transformation. And so it's just like this amazing energy that happens by the second or third day. If it's a great group, and we've had so many great groups, it's just a landslide. It's just everybody, there's just a current that just starts pulling people down, and and everybody goes. And so
and how do you keep people from regressing back to their old behaviors when they go home?
I'm on them all. I'm on them the whole entire time.
All right. So you're challenging them, but because that's the hard part, right? Going back to that three-dimensional space.
So it's a good conversation because many people go unconscious again, and they return back to their unconscious behaviors and thoughts and reactions emotionally, and we all do it. And but I'm happy to say that our community of people do the work. They do the work. They're not philosophers. They're engaged. I'm proud of that. That so many of our community make time in the morning to do their meditations.
That's what it's about. It's not a week of enlightenment and you go home. And this is really about doing the work when they get home.
Yeah, but you know what? I hit it 1,000 different ways. And like when we finished Cancun, I had so many people saying to me, stopping me in the elevator or wherever, saying, I got it. I just never understood it like I understood it. And I'm so excited. They connect. And now they don't, it's not like, oh God, I got to do my meditation today. They're like, the magic's happening. I want to keep the magic going. I want to keep it going. So we have this new thing we're doing called Leaving the Monastery. And it's just a way for us to provide a service to our advancing community where I come on and remind them of what they're doing and review things so that they can stay connected and be accountable for what they're learning. And it's a way for them to stay conscious. And then we finish the event with the mystical and the interest in activating latent systems in the brain so that people can have an experience that changes them forever. That we're not linear beings living a linear life. We're, in fact, very dimensional. And when you begin to activate these latent systems, there's a connection between the physics of the field with the biology of the brain. And when that system switches on, people really have a very profound, full-on sensory experience without their senses. And it's been really cool because when we did Berlin, we had.
Can you engineer this? To
Yeah,
where it happens?
we can make it. We can stimulate it. In fact, it's another formula.
And it happens on the 7th day, though. After all, the
6th and 7th, the last 2 days we do it,
Okay.
and we're up early in the morning because that's when the neurotransmitters are at the raw materials are at their height.
That's when you connect with the divine around 4:30 in the morning, right?
That's my time.
That's
yeah.
your preferred time.
Yeah, that's my time.
Is this the kind of experience with mystical experience, connecting with the divine?
Yeah, yeah, and again, very, very specific science that we discuss. The people have a great understanding of the process.
That's important to you, the science.
The science is the language.
Why is that? Because a lot of people that would do what you do, they wouldn't bother with the science because it would work.
Because the science is the language of mysticism. I mean, the moment you start talking about a religious or tradition or an ancient culture, you're going to divide an audience because you hear a certain word and you can't associate with it, or you have a meaning that's not the correct meaning. You divide a community, you divide an audience, and I think science unifies, and plus, whoever said whatever 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years ago, that was the language of 2,000 or 5,000 or 1,000 years ago. It wasn't the language of today, you know. So science is that language, I think, and so when you begin to bridge the mystical with the science and you start talking about these systems, in fact, actually, when we are in Toronto, we're going to stream the teaching for this particular meditation called the Pineal Gland meditation. We'll stream it on I think it's on a Wednesday night. I think it's September 4th or September 5th. And then Thursday, you can join the group and actually do the meditation with our community.
This is the mystical part.
This is the mystical part, and boy, oh boy, you know, when people connect and have those mystical experiences, I mean, the energy and the craziness and the wonder and all that stuff is pretty exciting. So, so I love that stuff because when you start having those mystical moments, you start taking this reality a lot less seriously. And on my own personal journey, I can tell you that, well, I've had some crazy mystical moments in the last few months, and it's exciting. You're less interested in politics. You're less interested in the way you look. You're less interested in what people think about you. You're less interested in so many other things. Your mind is preoccupied with how big this reality is of possibilities. So it's a full week, to answer your question, and we have team leaders that help connect with the community, that help them answer questions, you know, make sure they're doing okay. So they're big events, but we have great team leaders that work with our community to keep them, you know, keep them going.